Welcome. Today we're going to do a video on something called directed numbers. Directed numbers are one of the places where people start to freak out about maths, to put it mildly. Directed numbers are numbers which can be positive or negative. Here's my shorthand. This means positive, this means negative. Now what this means is numbers can have direction, like the temperature can be positive 30 degrees Celsius, which is quite warm, or negative 30 degrees Celsius, which is considerably cold. Or your bank account can be positive or negative. Hopefully it's positive. Anyway, what we can do with directed numbers is we can add, subtract, multiply, or divide them. Here's a neat trick for adding directed numbers. Okay, the operation we're looking at is adding. You can add a positive number to a positive number. That's a really straightforward case. You're probably very familiar with it. You just add the numbers together as normal. And the answer is positive. For example, if I see 3 plus 7, I just add them up like normal, keep my answer positive. The other simple case is if you're adding a negative number to a negative number. In that case, you add them as normal, but your answer is negative. So let's say we have negative 2 plus negative 4. I just ignore the signs and I look and I have 2 plus 4. Add them together, that makes 6, and make my answer negative. Okay, but there's another case, and the other case is when you're adding up two numbers which are of opposite signs. So a positive with a negative or a negative with a positive. I'm going to put an asterisk there because we do the same thing in both cases. And here's what we do. You're going to have a small number and a big number when you ignore the positives and negatives. What you do is you subtract the small number from the big number. Take the small number away from the big number, and your answer takes the sign of whatever the bigger number was. Here are some examples. Lots of examples. Okay, in the first case, we ignore the signs, so I don't see negative 2 and 7, I just see 2 and 7. And the bigger number is 7, so I take away 2 from it, and that makes 5. The bigger number, that's 7, was a positive 7, so the answer stays positive. In this case, the bigger number, ignore the sign, and I just have 4, take 3, makes 1. But the bigger number was actually negative 4, it was a negative. So my answer becomes negative. Now over here, the bigger number is 5, ignoring the sign. 5 take 1 is 4, but the bigger number was a negative, so it becomes negative 4. And over here, I have 12 and 3. 12 take 3 is 9. The bigger number, 12, was positive, so the answer is positive. Now, if you can internalize this trick and really soak it up, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. Now you're thinking, okay, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. What about subtracting? Well, subtracting can be thought of like adding. If I have 3 take 6, taking away 6 is just like adding on a negative 6. And then we follow the rule here. 6 take 3 is 3. The bigger number was a negative 6. So it becomes negative 3. So just remember, if you're subtracting a number, that's the same as adding a negative number. That will help. Okay, now what we're going to look at is multiplying or dividing. I'm putting them together because they pretty much work the same way. Now, if I have a positive multiplying or dividing by a positive, two positives working together, then I just multiply or divide it as normal, whatever the problem is, and the answer is a positive. If I have a negative and a negative, I just multiply or divide it as normal, and my answer is a positive. Think of it like this. You have a negative multiplying by a negative. You have two strokes. They come together to make a positive. Okay, now, a positive and a negative working together, they multiply or divide as normal, and my answer becomes negative. Because if you have a positive and a negative, like we saw before, that makes a negative. Negative and a positive, it's exactly the same thing. Multiply or divide as normal, your answer becomes negative. Because, just like before, negative and a positive make a negative. So in a lot of ways, multiplying and dividing directed numbers is more straightforward than adding or subtracting them. But that's good because it's less work for us. Okay, hope you learned a lot about directed numbers, and I shall see you later.